Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to look at a completely new way of thinking about a very, very old disease. We're diving into the science behind a technology called Genomalight, and its goal isn't just to treat psoriasis, but to fundamentally reset it.
So, let's just start with a huge question. Psoriasis. It's one of the most common autoimmune diseases on the entire planet. But what if the whole approach we've been taking, suppressing symptoms, managing flare-ups, has completely missed the real cause? What if the problem isn't just on the surface of the skin, but deep inside the very engine of our cells? To really get the breakthrough here, we first have to understand the problem. For millions of people, living with psoriasis is this frustrating, endless cycle of treatment and then relapse. Let's break down exactly why that is. The scale of this is just staggering. We're talking about 125 million people all over the world. That's something like 2 to 3% of the global population dealing with a chronic, often painful, and really emotionally taxing condition. This is so much more than a minor skin irritation. It's a huge quality of life issue. And this really shows you the painful trade-off people are facing. You've got topical creams, right? They work where you put them, but the relapse rate is super high when you stop. Then there are biologics. They can be really effective, but they work by suppressing your entire immune system. They cost over $50,000 a year, and you have to take them forever. And finally, there's UVB light therapy, which basically damages cells to slow them down, but that means constant clinic visits and a risk of skin cancer. You see the theme? None of these actually fix the underlying problem. So this brings us to a really fundamental shift in thinking. The new science is suggesting that maybe we've been looking in the wrong place this whole time. That psoriasis isn't just an overactive immune system. It's an immunometabolic disease. The real problem is in the cell's engine. And a core idea here is something called the Warburg effect. Now, this was first spotted in cancer cells, but it turns out it's happening in psoriatic skin too. See, healthy cells use oxygen to make energy really efficiently, but psoriatic cells, they get stuck in this haywire, high-burn, super inefficient mode, even when there's plenty of oxygen around. They are literally redlining their engines 24/7. And this metabolic mess creates a disease that just feeds on itself. First, the cell's metabolism goes haywire. That produces a waste product, tons of lactate. But here's the catch. That lactate isn't just waste. It acts as a signal that locks the cell into an inflammatory state. And what does that inflammation do? It tells a cell to keep its engine revving high, which, you guessed it, makes more lactate. It's a vicious loop that current drugs just don't break. So, if the problem is a cellular engine that's stuck in overdrive, how do you fix it? Well, this is where the Genomalight approach comes in. It's not about throwing another drug at the symptoms. It's about going right to the metabolic level and hacking the engine with a very specific kind of light. The whole philosophy here is completely different. Instead of taking a chemical hammer to the immune system to suppress it, the goal is to send a signal that allows the cell's own machinery, its mitochondria, to reboot and get back to normal. Now, it is so important to understand that this is not the same as the light therapy people get now. UVB therapy is basically a controlled sunburn. It damages DNA to stop cells from growing so fast. This new approach, near-infrared photobiomodulation, or PBM, is the total opposite. It's a bioenergetic approach. It doesn't damage a thing. Instead, it goes deep into the skin to give energy back to the mitochondria, helping them work properly again. And the key is this number right here, 850 nanometers. This is not just any red light. It's a very specific wavelength of near-infrared light that gets absorbed by key parts of our mitochondria. This is the precise signal needed to break that vicious lactate loop and restore balance, all without harming the skin. It's targeted, it's elegant. All right, so the theory sounds amazing, but does it actually work? This is where we go from the lab to a real person, with a single, incredibly compelling case study that hinted that this could be way more than just a theory. The secret here is the pattern of the treatment. Check this out. A 47-year-old man had different parts of his body treated one after the other. First, they treated his back for 2 months, and the plaques cleared up. Then, they stopped treating his back and started on his legs. And the amazing part, the back stayed clear. Then they moved to his scalp, and guess what? Both his back and his legs remained clear. This was not temporary suppression.
And here is the punchline. Over a year later, in fact, we're talking over 18 months later, every single one of the treated areas was still clear. No drugs, no creams, no maintenance therapy at all. The reboot seemed to have actually held. And this quote just nails why this one case is such a big deal. The sequential treatment, where cleared areas stayed clear even after the light was gone, well, that's pretty much the textbook definition of a durable remission. It suggests the disease itself was actually changed, not just covered up. Look, a breakthrough in one person is absolutely incredible, but the real goal is to make this available to the millions who need it. So, how does this discovery go from a lab prototype to something you can actually use? Well, there's a very clear plan. The prototype? That's done. The huge next step is a multi-center clinical trial to see if these results hold up in a bigger group, maybe 30 to 50 patients. If that data's strong, that's what gets submitted to the FDA, with the ultimate goal of making a device that people can use safely and easily in their own homes. So let's just quickly run through the biggest takeaways here. 1. Psoriasis is just as much a metabolic problem as it is an immune one. 2. Our current treatments are stuck just managing symptoms, not fixing the root cause. 3. This new approach uses a very specific 850 nanometer light to reboot the cell's engine. 4. The early results point to this incredible possibility of long-term drug-free remission. And 5. The end goal is something you can use at home, completely changing how we manage this disease. And that leaves us with one last big thought. We started this whole thing talking about psoriasis, but the implications here are so much bigger. If we can actually restore normal function to a cell just by giving it the right kind of energy, what other chronic diseases could we tackle this way? We might be looking at the very beginning of a new chapter in medicine, one that's not focused on suppression, but on restoration.